What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 23rd episode on my 1976 F750 CrewCab build series. In the previous episode, you watched us tear apart our donor truck and take parts from it for the CrewCab, which means in today's episode, we need to build a grill. A grill that not only fits around the massive 6.7 Power Stroke coolant package, but a grill that also looks good as if it were to come off the assembly line at a Ford factory itself. So there's nothing to it but to do it. Stay tuned. Alrighty, first up for today is we need to figure out the front end of the truck and the grill. We got to make it fit around the massive dual 6.7 Power Stroke coolant package. We need to bring it out a couple inches to fit around the secondary cooler, and we have two options for this. The first option, the one we're going to do first, is modify the grill. Now we have this grill, and then we also have the grill from the donor truck, and our first original thought is to grab this piece that I cut out forever ago out of the middle and essentially bring it out far enough to where it fits around the secondary cooler, which means we'll have gaps on each side, but then we'll take the grill from the donor truck and essentially angle them back to match up with the factory spots of the factory grill. We think that's going to be kind of the best course of action because we'll be able to maintain a factory look. At first glance, when you first look at it, it'll have all the factory grooves and lines of the grill, but when you come to the side, it'll be kicked out a hair bit to accommodate for the cooler. And we think that'll be kind of like the best look, best course of action for now. Now, if Kyle and I do that and we don't like it, we hate it, we think it's ugly, plan B is, which a lot of people that do 6.7 swaps, this is kind of their first option, we will get rid of the secondary cooler completely. So what happens is you get rid of it, but to maintain temperatures throughout the truck, you then have to tap into the EGR for something like the trans cooler. Then you have to buy a secondary cooler, one that's much smaller, something like from Mishimoto or an off-brand one off the internet. And then you have to plumb lines to it for the fuel cooler, for the charge air cooler, and things like that, because at the end of the day, you're getting rid of a secondary cooler, and you still need to maintain temperatures throughout the truck while you're driving. The biggest thing is this thing has thermostats, and when you get rid of the secondary, we believe so. So when you get rid of the secondary, you get rid of the thermostat. So we're not really sure if you were to get rid of the secondary cooler, how you would maintain and regulate those temperatures for the charge air and fuel cooler and things like that. The EGR would be easy for the trans cooler, but we have no idea up here, so that's a little bit more research. So that's also why we're going with the modification of the grill first, because by doing that, we get to maintain the secondary coolant package. And that's kind of the whole point of this swap, is to essentially take everything from the donor truck, put it in this truck, and have it function as if this whole entire setup was back in the 2016 donor truck. So by deleting this, we're kind of getting away from our original goal. But at the end of the day, to make this functional and driving, if we have to get rid of it, we'll get rid of it. But for now, the first course of action is modifying the grill, making it look as factory and as good as we possibly can, because we're hoping that between the grill and a grill guard and the bumper, you really won't be able to notice unless you really stared at the front end of this truck. All right, you guys, time for an update. We have gotten the centerpiece welded into place. We have these 3 tabs along the top that kind of gave us our depth from the grill. And then we added these side panels right here and right here. And what that services is we had a lot of dead space back behind here. And so we wanted to funnel all the air to the coolant packages. So essentially those will block off the air from the sides. But to tie it all together so it doesn't look like we just have these massive side walls, what we're going to do is we are going to cut these center pieces right along this piece right here and then bend them around. And so they will angle back where they originally go on the original grill. So for example, essentially we'll cut pieces out of this to add right here, so that way the grill will come around, bend, and then tie back into its original location. And then essentially we're going to box it in with these pieces along the top. This will go all the way around to this side and kind of enclose the whole entire thing. And then the bottom side will have this guy, this piece right here. It'll do the same thing. It'll attach back to its factory spot, and then right here it'll bend back and dive into there. But we aren't terribly upset with how it looks, to be honest. Now, we did know it was going to be a little bulkier and it was going to stick out, but it's not terrible. We don't absolutely hate it. It actually looks pretty good in person. All right, you guys, update time. We have put the bend on our trim pieces for the sides. We've also added the metal up top. Just an FYI, this is obviously not finished. We still have to grind down certain areas, finish welding it out. But Kyle wanted to see what it looks like in black because this is going to be painted black, and we're digging it so far. So what we've done, what you guys previously saw in the time lapse, was we cut all these down to get the curvature and the bend. So these essentially angle back to the scallops of the original grill. This cardboard piece right here pretty much is a demo for what it's going to look like. We are going to cut out these pieces right here and then add them obviously here. So we just wanted to see what it was going to look like, and that's what it's going to look like. It's going to obviously have the same contour as this because we're literally cutting out these middle pieces to put here. For the bottom, like I said previously, we're going to take this piece right here. That's the factory bottom of the grill, and we're going to contour and weld it into place like that. And then this is going to bend like that and follow the contour of the grill all the way around, just like it would in the factory position. And then we'll be able to tack everything in place in the factory spots, and it should tie everything in together really nicely and keep the theme going. It's going to look like the factory grill with just a little bit of an additive because obviously we had to have somewhat of a curvature to it to get around the coolant package. So up next is we are going to cut out all these bad boys, get them welded into place, start welding all these to close them up, grinding everything down, and we will give you guys an update here again soon. All right, you guys, update time. I finished the rest of this side, wrapping this trim piece around to the natural scallops of the original grill, which are right here. So essentially what I did was, after Kyle and I bent them around this angle, I cut out pieces of our second grill, put them up there, figured out kind of where I need to cut around this to dive into the original grill, and cut a measurement, tacked them into place. Obviously you can see where the new pieces are from the old, where Kyle spray painted, but I also tossed on the headlamp and the bezel around it because I wanted to see what it looked like with all of it on. And Kyle and I actually really like it a lot. With the headlamp and the bezel, it doesn't stick out as far as we originally thought, especially once we have the bottom trim piece around and a bumper and a grill guard. It's going to be really tidied up and looking really nice. So essentially what I need to do is I need to jump over here and do the exact same thing. Cut them all down, bend them around, and add these longer pieces to the sides, doing exactly what we did over here. But so far, Kyle and I really like it. This is our plan A, and our first option. Plan B is to remove the whole entire secondary cooler and figure out a way to make this truck maintain temperatures without the primary or without the secondary factory cooler. But this is our first option. We like it so far. We think this is going to be a good turnout. When we started, we didn't know how bulky the grill was going to be, how far out it stuck compared to the headlamp, compared to the bumper and things like that. But so far, we really like the way it's turning out. It gives it a cool three-dimensional look, which I'm actually stoked about because the original grills, these things are massive. These things are like 7 feet tall, well, wide technically, and they're just a huge, massive, flat grill. And so this kind of gives it a more aggressive three-dimensional design, and so far Kyle and I are really liking it. So I'm going to jump to the other side now, bend these same exact way I did over here, or Kyle did, bend them around, attach them, and we will give you guys an update on those here shortly. I have bent over the other side of the grill, extended the sections, and tacked them into place. It looks a little wavy right here, but that's just kind of an optical illusion with where the paint is, and then where the factory white color paint begins, like right there. But everything else is looking pretty parallel with each other, which is kind of the main goal. When you look at it from the side, you don't want one to be like this, one to be up or down, and so keeping these parallel is very important, so that way the eye, when it looks at it, doesn't catch anything out of whack. This is already going to stick out a little bit. This is already going to be non-factory traditional F750 grill, so we're trying to minimize the attraction to it as much as possible. So having these all cattywampus would just attract your eye to it even more, and that's literally the last thing we're trying to do. So up next, with these all being tacked into place, I'm going to jump up here, right into here, and trim these up and close them up. These right here are these guys right here. So we cut those off. I was thinking about extending them, but they don't really look that great. I'm trying to see if I have, oh, they're over here. Let me grab them really quickly. Whoa. So I was thinking about extending them up. I gotta grab multiple of them because the gap is big. Let me see. Alrighty. Obviously they would be cut off and the same width. But I was thinking about extending them up like that. But I think once everything's black, you're really not going to see it with this. It does give it a little bit more dimension that I do like, but I don't know if it is worth the time and effort. Like, you can barely even see it from back here. Imagine that being black. I don't think you would see it, especially if you're driving by the truck. So that's always something we can come back and add later down the road if we like it. This right here is, the light made it look way uneven, but there's a lot of welding when we're done that's going to need to be taking place. So that's what I'm going to do up next. Is I'm going to cut these off even with these sides, put in a filler piece and tack them into place, so that way these are all welded out, clean, good to go. And then I need to start working on the bottom piece of trim piece. So like I said, it's going to be just like these guys, but out of that. And it's going to wrap around and go back. Same contour, same everything. So I think that's really going to make a nice final piece to the puzzle and really encapsulate everything. And that'll also protect the coolant package just a little bit more. And it'll be a nice finishing touch before the bumper. So going to jump on those, start cutting up this. You guys will see that here in a bit. And then we will give you guys another update on what it looks like kind of all done up together. Alright, I just cut these tiny little pieces out of some scrap sheet metal we had and tacked them into place. I just tacked them. I'm not a welder. We're going to have Kyle weld all these out. But for the sake of him working over there and me popping out this grill, I can tack them into place, so then just kind of grind them down. This is kind of a little bit of what it'll look like. I did my best of welding this out as much as possible. Ground it down, and so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. Not too shabby, but Kyle will make it look 1,000 times better than I could ever make it. So we got those three done, and then now this is the exact same piece that I actually cut off of it. Hindsight's 20/20. If I would have known this, I would have kept it on there. So essentially, this is going to be just welded back onto the spots that it was cut off of, which is very ironic. But as you can see, the factory grill, the bottom side, and just like that one over there, it notches out because this actually went around the frame of the original truck. So the frame would have extended, we cut it out for the coolant package, but the frame would have extended out further, and then those notches would have gone around it, so that way the grill could fit around the frame rails. So this will be popped into place just like that, keeping and maintaining the factory look. And then on the edges, we're going to cut them out just like we did the top. And then I will cut out this section from right around here to here, and then do the exact same thing and angle it and carry the angle from this corner right here out. So it'll essentially look something like this, if that makes sense. So I'm going to get going on that. I'm going to tack this into place into those 3 original locations, and I will get the rest of it dialed in after that. I'll cut them off here, get some measurements for the side panels, and then hopefully get it all tacked into place and give you guys an update here very quickly. All right, you guys, a little update for you. I wrapped around the lower frame, if you will, the lower piece around the coolant package on the passenger side, and that is what it looks like tacked into place. So I forgot that on the factory grill, this driver's side had a bend in this lower piece right in the corner. So this would usually go straight across, and I guess I'll just show it over here. Now this isn't obviously the actual grill because this is the driver's side, but right here it was hit. So this was all bent up and back. So what I had to make sure and do is I knew I needed to tie it into here. So I needed to make sure that this reveal was all even and followed it all the way around. So that was one thing I needed to do. I needed to make sure that it was parallel with this, which it is. And then also with this being tacked into place first, I need to make sure that the tops dove into it properly, this middle reveal dove into it, and then this was all fluid and flush wrapping around. So it is not perfect. I'm not going to claim it's perfect, but I did manage to tack this into place where it lines up really nicely, managed to make this parallel, and this is almost perfect, almost. So on camera, it looks pretty dang good. This looks like it's pretty dang good. However, this middle piece is a little low. So what I had to do was, since this was bent up, I essentially had to cut all of these out and tack them into place individually like you guys just saw. Whereas up here, we could just score it and wrap it around. This had to be kind of individually done. That's why I have these back filler pieces right here to be almost like a second set of hands, so I could tack into place and then use that as kind of a gauge to go in and out. So it is not 100% perfect, but like Kyle and I talked about, once this is welded out, we can essentially add material where it's low and grind out material where it's high to make it look really nice and smooth and seamless and make it look really good at the end. So one thing I need to do over here is I do need to add a filler piece right here and then a filler piece right up here to make sure this is all covered up. And then after that, I can jump to the other side and do exactly what I just did and go to town on this guy right here. But so far we like it. It's exactly what we were going for. It really completes it, really ties the grill in back to the factory location that it once was in. And so Kyle and I are more than happy with it. So time to jump to the other side and see if we can't make it as good, if not better, as this passenger side. Alrighty, I have ran into a bit of an issue with the driver's side lower trim piece that I'm working on. So I came over here to cut it out, and I noticed that it has also been hit, or dented, backed into, whatever. You know, these are farm truck, work trucks, Forest Service, railroad vehicles. So one issue that I see is that top bulge right there. And then the biggest issue, try to use the sunlight to show you guys, is that big old dent right in the middle. And what that's causing is that reveal is also dented. So I need to figure out if I can hammer some of this out, kind of work it a little bit to where I can make it, you know, somewhat usable. Or my second option, if I can't do that, is I am going to essentially keep what I can keep, and then over here cut out what I need to cut out to use. So this looks all really nice, but I can't use too much of it because it's going to start coming into this bend. So I was thinking about maybe potentially cutting it off right around here and splicing it into this to try to make it work as much as possible. I do have this extra piece here, but it's also damaged, but this is a good template of kind of the contour of it. So I'm going to see if I can hammer any of this out. Like this top piece up here will be easy. Worst case scenario, I just cut it out along this bend, and then also right here, and then we just get a filler piece. That'll be super easy. So the biggest concern is just kind of this dent in the middle, because this was obviously pressed at a Ford factory, and we were not able to replicate it. So I'm going to just see between both sides if I can essentially cut it out, kind of splice it in where I need to splice it in, and make a complete piece. So that's kind of a bummer. There's going to be a lot more work on this side than just kind of cutting this out, tossing it into place, and running with it. But we will make it work. We'll make it look good, and do what we can with what we have. I'm not going to buy another grill just for a small little piece, so we just got to make it look as good as possible. So change of plans with this piece right here. I thought I could bend it out, and I did get this top pretty decent. I did take some of the bend out of it, but now I'm starting to crush that reveal, that center piece, as you can see. So if I show it over here, you guys can see it really well. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to cut this into multiple pieces, just like I did the other side, to get that bend around the coolant package. And then what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to tack the one side in, get it into place, and kind of go down the line and bend it where I need it to be to tack into place. This is thin enough sheet metal because it is pressed from the factory, so it is thin enough that I think I can essentially bend it front and back on the top and the bottom to kind of get the curvature that I need. On the other side, yeah, you can really bend it relatively easy. So like that is flexing a little bit. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to have to do. Essentially just start at the top or the bottom, tag into place, work my way down, and just do the best I can with every single reveal. If I tack it at every single bend, I should be able to maintain that the curvature of it. So I will tack it on top, this bend right here, this right here, right there, and at the bottom, and then essentially just work my way all the way down and then across and then tie it back in. And I think that it's going to be kind of my best course of action, just because I don't have a hammer and dolly, I don't have anything to make this really, really kosher and really nice, and so I'm just going to have to make it work, do the best we can, and at the end of the day I think this will look really good for kind of what we have. Alrighty, you guys, I got the driver's side lower trim piece done of the grill. Now, I will give you guys a disclaimer. This isn't very nice compared to the passenger side, and the issue with that and the reason for it is because I had to take a bunch of little pieces that we had from the two grills that grill over there, and then the remaining pieces from this grill, and piece them in. And so the reason for that was because this was so dented and dinged up. So I pretty much had to cut everything out and take the good parts of all the small pieces that I had in order to make it work. So give you guys a quick little rundown from a distance. It doesn't look too bad. Now, I'm not a fabricator. I'm also not a welder. So this will be sent off to get welded out. And I'm going to have to pay a little bit of extra to have this kind of finalized and all the body work, or all the body and metal work done on this side. So if you can see it, there's this main piece that came to here. I cut it like I normally do on the other side, as well as all these. And then you have another cut right here. And so this is now 3 pieces, whereas the other side, it was just one. It was just one continuous piece. I essentially had to cut this out to tie it back into the rest of the grill, and it worked out. Well, on this piece, I had to do 3 separate pieces just because of all the small little pieces that I had to put into place in order to make the proper distance from here to there. So looking down it, it doesn't look too shabby. I just made sure that all my reveals and all my scallops and bulges lined up. I made sure that it lined up here, so that way this bead ties in all the way around. So we have that constant. We do have it parallel, so that's a nice reveal. So essentially I just had to make sure, like the other side, that this matched up and we had the proper parallel distance. And essentially I'm gonna have to have the person that welds this out and the metal worker kind of work his magic and figure out the rest of it. So right here there's a little bit too much of a bend, if you guys can see that. And so he's gonna have to pull that up, tack into place, bend it around the corner, as well as we are gonna fill out the rest of these holes right here, obviously all the welds, and then back here where there's a space, that'll be welded out. Just like the other side right here, that'll have a piece out, or a piece from here to here, as well as a piece from here to here. Everything will be welded out. So that's the update. I now am going to toss the bezel in and the headlight or the lamp just like the other side to kind of see an overall picture of the grill completely tacked into place. Just installed the headlight lamp and the bezel, and that is a finished day for us here at the shop. Now obviously we still have to weld it out, do a little bit of sheet metal work down there, and get it powder coated and things like that. But for now, for what we need to do, it is done. The grill is all tacked into place. I'm going to send this out to get welded out, some body work or metal work over here, and hopefully when we get this back, it'll be super straight, super pristine. I have confidence in the kid that's welding this for us. He's super talented, super good, so the grill is in really good hands. But I wanted to give you guys kind of an overview look of what it looks like with both bezels and both lamps on, as well as the whole entire thing tied in together. So Kyle and I really like the way this turned out. Obviously it's not ideal to have to modify your grill for the coolant package, but it is what it is. We officially have a 6.7 Power Stroke dual coolant package in a full complete front clip of an F750 CrewCab. Like I said in prior videos and earlier on this episode, if we don't like it, we can always remove the secondary cooler, figure out a way to maintain temperatures, the trans cooler and things like that. Figure out a way to maintain temperatures while getting rid of the secondary cooler, and then essentially mount a factory grill back onto it. But for now, Kyle and I really like the way it looks. I think once it is welded out, grinded down where everything flows, powder coated, and once we have a bumper and a brush guard, I really don't think you're really even going to notice that we messed with the grill. It kind of gives it a pre-runner Baja look, which Kyle and I really like. It also gives it a little bit of three-dimensional design by sticking out, which I also like because the factory grill is just so massive and so flat. It's actually kind of ugly when you see it in person, or when you see a big F600 or 700 or 750 driving down the road. They're just so massive and flat, and it's kind of unappealing. So maybe I'm just compensating and trying to talk myself up and hype myself up into liking this. But so far, Kyle and I really like it. We really like the way it worked out and the way the overall look and style looks. It makes the truck look even meaner. The truck is massive, it's huge, and so I think this actually gives it a more aggressive and mean look up on the front end. All right, you guys, that's gonna be a wrap for today's episode. We got the grill all tacked into place, and let me tell you, it looks awesome. Kyle and I are super stoked with the way it turned out. It adds a lot of three-dimensional look to the front of the truck, which otherwise looked very wide and flat and kind of hideous as a whole. It also looks very proportionate and aggressive with the wider fenders of the CrewCab and things like that. So we are beyond stoked. Now all we have to do is uninstall it, send it off to a metal shop to do some body work to it, as well as final welds, grind it all out, and make it look 100% before powder coat, or if we decide to paint it. So that's going to be up to them. They're masters. I'm just a hobbyist at this. So that means up next, Kyle and I need to jump around the truck, unfortunately, and do little knick-knacky things that we've been putting off throughout the build, such as make certain brackets, more gussets, more supports, dial in the dash, dial in the wiring, and things like that. Eventful, not very fun things that need to get done before we tear down the truck one final time for body and paint. So we really appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the next one.